When most people think about a power outage, they think about inconvenience. Lights go out, Wi-Fi stops working, maybe dinner plans change. But that's only the surface. The real cost of a power outage isn't just measured in hours without electricity. It's measured in financial loss, stress, vulnerability, and exposure, especially for American families who rely on continuous power for nearly every part of daily life. Let's break this down clearly and practically. Because once you understand the full cost structure of an outage, you start looking at energy very differently. 1. The immediate financial cost. Start with the obvious. Food. The average American household keeps hundreds of dollars worth of groceries in the refrigerator and freezer. During an extended outage, especially one lasting 24 to 72 hours, much of that food becomes unsafe. Meat, dairy, frozen goods. Even if only part of it spoils, replacing those groceries isn't minor. It's an unexpected hit to the monthly budget. Now add missed remote work hours, business interruptions for self-employed individuals, lost income from home-based services, child care adjustments if schools close. For families living paycheck to paycheck, or even carefully budgeting, an outage becomes more than inconvenience. It becomes disruption. And disruptions cost money. 2. The infrastructure. You don't think about electricity powers more than lights and outlets. It powers heating systems, air conditioning, water heaters, well pumps in rural homes, sump pumps in basements, medical devices, security systems. When power stops, these systems stop. In winter, indoor temperatures can drop quickly, especially in older homes. In summer, heat builds steadily without airflow or cooling. Pipes can freeze and burst. Basements can flood if some pumps fail during storms. Medications that require refrigeration become unusable. These are not dramatic scenarios. They are documented realities during extended outages. The cost of repairing water damage or replacing appliances far exceeds the cost of groceries, and none of it feels predictable. 3. The hidden psychological cost. There's another layer most people don't calculate: mental strain. During a prolonged outage, uncertainty becomes the main stressor. You don't know when power will return. You don't know if fuel will remain available. You don't know whether communication systems will stay online. Phones drain. Wi-Fi disappears. News becomes fragmented. For families with children or elderly parents, that uncertainty intensifies responsibility. Even if nothing catastrophic happens, the constant management, conserving battery, monitoring food, adjusting temperatures, creates fatigue. And fatigue leads to poor decisions. The psychological cost is subtle but real. Because modern homes are built around uninterrupted electricity, losing it feels like losing stability itself. 4. The community-level impact power outages are rarely isolated. When the grid goes down across a region, gas stations may not pump fuel, grocery stores close, traffic lights fail, ATMs go offline, cellular networks weaken over time. Now the issue extends beyond your house. Supply chains pause, services halt. Local businesses lose revenue. If outages stretch beyond 24-48 hours, the ripple effect spreads quickly. Even if your home remains physically safe, the surrounding infrastructure may not function normally. This is where the real cost multiplies. Not because of chaos, but because modern systems are deeply interconnected. Electricity supports everything. 5. The economic reality of grid dependency. Here's something most households don't consider. The grid is centralized by design. That design offers efficiency and convenience. But it also means vulnerability is shared. When extreme weather events occur, winter storms, heat waves, wildfires, strain increases. Repairs take time. Equipment must be replaced. Crews must stabilize load before restoration. During that time, families wait. And waiting is expensive. Not always in visible dollars, but in exposure. Every year, grid modernization projects, infrastructure upgrades, and system expansions are implemented. Those improvements are necessary, but they are reactive to demand growth and environmental pressure. The question isn't whether outages will ever happen. The question is how often, how long, and how prepared households are when they do. 6. The cost of doing nothing. Many families assume outages are rare enough not to justify planning, and in some regions they may be infrequent. But preparedness isn't about frequency, it's about consequence. If the consequence of a 72-hour outage is manageable, stress stays low. If the consequence is severe, food loss, frozen pipes, medical risk, the calculation changes. This is where structural thinking becomes important. Instead of asking, how likely is an outage? A more useful question becomes, what happens if it does? If your home relies 100% on centralized grid supply with no redundancy, then exposure is total. If you have partial backup for essential systems, refrigeration, minimal heating, device charging, exposure decreases significantly. Not eliminated, reduced. And that difference defines cost. 7. Backup versus independence. Now, this isn't about going completely off-grid. Most families don't need that. And this isn't about panic-driven purchases. It's about understanding essential load. What does your household truly need to function safely for 48 to 72 hours? Basic lighting, refrigeration, limited heating or cooling, communication access. When you narrow it down, the list becomes manageable. But until you identify those essentials, every outage feels unpredictable. And unpredictability is expensive. 8. The shift in perspective. Here's the deeper insight. Power outages reveal how dependent modern life is on uninterrupted energy. They expose the gap between convenience and resilience. For decades, households optimized comfort, larger appliances, more devices, fully electric systems. That's not inherently wrong, but resilience was rarely part of the design conversation. Now, with increasing weather volatility and grid strain in certain regions, resilience is becoming part of the discussion. Not from fear, from experience. When families go through one extended outage, their perspective changes. They start asking structural questions. What would it take to keep essentials running? How do I reduce total exposure? What options exist beyond full dependency? And those questions lead to practical exploration. 9. The real cost is exposure. So what is the real cost of a power outage? It's not just spoiled food. It's not just a cold night. It's exposure to a system you don't control. When the grid functions, life feels stable. When it stops, you realize how little buffer exists. That realization alone changes how many homeowners think about energy, not emotionally, structurally. And once you see energy as infrastructure rather than utility, the conversation shifts. In upcoming videos, we'll continue breaking this down. What realistic home resilience actually looks like. The difference between temporary and sustainable backup systems. How to evaluate essential energy loads. Practical ways families reduce full dependency. If this kind of clear, structured explanation is helpful, subscribe to the channel. We focus on long-term thinking for real households, especially adults who want stability and clarity, not hype. And if you're ready to explore structured approaches to reducing outage exposure and maintaining essential home power, there's a resource linked in the description. It connects directly to what we discussed today, understanding the real cost of outages, and what households can do to lower that cost in practical terms. If you want to move from awareness to preparation, that's the logical next step. Subscribe for the next breakdown, and check the link in the description to continue learning. I'll see you in the next video.